Hello, my name is Stella Hayes, a brilliant young woman who outsmarts a greedy relative trying to steal her inheritance. But instead of breaking down, she plays the long game, and the results are absolutely satisfying. Get ready for a gripping story of deception, patience, and the ultimate takedown. Let's dive in. The cold Seattle rain drizzled steadily as Stella Hayes stood on the front steps of her childhood home, watching her belongings crash onto the wet pavement. A suitcase burst open, sending neatly folded clothes spilling onto the driveway, now damp from the misty evening air. Her uncle, Daniel Hayes, stood in the doorway, his expression smug as he tossed another box onto the pile. "Maybe this will teach you responsibility," he said, dangling her house keys between two fingers like a taunt. "Your mother always spoiled you, and look where it got her. That's why she trusted me to handle the estate. She knew you couldn't." Stella didn't flinch. She had seen this coming. She had watched Daniel insert himself into her mother's life when the cancer diagnosis came, playing the role of the devoted brother-in-law while slowly tightening his grip on her assets. He had moved in under the guise of helping, quietly shifting financial control to himself. Now, just 3 months after her mother's death, he was making his final move, erasing Stella from her own inheritance. She knelt down, carefully folding a rain-soaked sweater, her mother's last Christmas gift to her. Daniel expected a reaction, tears, pleading, maybe even a scene that would make him look justified in the eyes of the wealthy neighbors watching through their curtain-drawn windows. But she wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Instead, she zipped up her last bag and straightened, meeting his gaze with calm defiance. "Well," she said smoothly, adjusting the strap on her shoulder. "I appreciate you being so clear about your intentions, Daniel." For the first time, his smirk faltered. "Don't even think about contesting this," he snapped, tightening his grip on the keys. "The paperwork is ironclad. Your mother trusted me to make the right decisions, and that's exactly what I'm doing." No, Stella thought. Mom trusted you because she was too sick to see you for what you really were. But I saw you. And I've been preparing for this. As Daniel slammed the door shut, thinking he had won, Stella pulled out her phone. She had recorded everything. A single text to Jackson Cross, her lawyer, was all it took to set the plan in motion. "It's done." He took the bait. A reply came immediately. "Meeting in 30 minutes. Bring everything." Stella didn't look back as she walked toward her car. The game had only just begun. Stella hadn't always been this prepared for a fight. A year ago, she would have never imagined having to defend her own inheritance against the man who once played the role of a doting uncle. But that was before she started noticing the signs, the too quick decisions, the hidden conversations, the slow, calculated takeover of her mother's affairs. It all began last spring when her mother, Victoria Hayes, received the devastating cancer diagnosis. Stella had been living in San Francisco, running a small but promising tech startup, when she got the call. She rushed back to Seattle, only to find Uncle Daniel already firmly embedded in her mother's daily life. He had moved in under the guise of helping, claiming he wanted to ensure Victoria's comfort, taking charge of medical decisions, finances, and even home affairs. At first, it seemed like genuine concern. But as the weeks went by, Stella started to see through the act. The turning point came during a late-night visit home during spring break. Stella had arrived unannounced, expecting to spend time with her mother. Instead, she found Daniel alone in the study, rifling through financial documents. He didn't hear her at first, giving her a clear view of the files he was examining, bank statements, property deeds, legal documents Stella had never seen before. When she cleared her throat, Daniel turned sharply, a flicker of panic flashing across his face before he quickly composed himself. "What are you doing?" she had asked, keeping her voice steady. "Just organizing things for your mother," he said smoothly, shutting the folder a little too quickly. "She's not in any state to manage these matters herself." That night, Stella made 2 phone calls. The first was to Jackson Cross, a seasoned corporate attorney and family friend who had worked with her late father. She explained her suspicions, and Jackson agreed to quietly start reviewing the estate documents. The second call was to Emily Carter, her best friend and a forensic accountant. "Your uncle's up to something," Stella had told her. "I need you to help me figure out what." Within weeks, Emily uncovered a trail of shady transactions. Daniel had already begun moving assets, setting up shell companies, and transferring funds under his name. The most damning discovery: he had used a power of attorney signed. When Victoria was heavily medicated to seize control of the estate, they couldn't stop him yet. "Not until he makes a mistake," Jackson had warned. So Stella waited. She let Daniel believe she was distracted, busy managing her startup in San Francisco, while secretly building a legal and financial trap around him. She knew that the moment her mother passed, he would make his final move, and she had to be ready when he did. Now, standing in the rain after her forced eviction, Stella knew her patience had paid off. The trap was about to spring. The rhythmic tapping of Stella's fingers against the leather-bound folder in her lap was the only sign of her nerves as she sat in Jackson Cross's law office, surrounded by the team she had carefully assembled over the past year. Across from her, Emily Carter's laptop screen glowed with incriminating financial records, each transaction meticulously tracked and traced. David Miller, the SEC investigator, sat next to her, his sharp eyes scanning the data. Detective Hannah Jorge, representing the district attorney's fraud division, clicked her pen as she reviewed the case files. The air was thick with anticipation. The moment had finally come. "He took the bait," Stella said, setting her phone on the table. She tapped the screen, playing back Daniel's arrogant confession from the night before. His voice, dripping with condescension, filled the room. "The house is mine now, Stella. Your mother gave me full control. You were never responsible enough to handle real money. And once I sell it, I'll make sure the funds are managed properly, by me." Hannah smirked, pausing the recording. "That's all we needed. He just admitted intent to commit financial fraud, on record. Between that and the forged estate documents, we have enough to move forward." Stella exhaled, but there was no relief yet. What about the shell companies? The offshore transfers? Emily spun her laptop around, revealing a web of financial transactions layered like a digital maze. He was careful, she admitted, but not careful enough. Every time he set up a new company, we mirrored his moves, setting up legal claims and counter-business structures. His last transaction actually routed money straight back into one of our controlled accounts under Carter Trust Solutions. Stella couldn't help but smile. She had used Daniel's own strategy against him. Every attempt he made to hide money, redirect funds, or manipulate the estate had been intercepted, documented, and legally contested, without him ever realizing it. Jackson leaned forward. "Here's how this plays out. As soon as Daniel officially lists the house for sale, he's committing fraud, because legally, he no longer owns it. The moment he signs a contract with a real estate agent, we hit him with multiple felony charges: estate fraud, financial misconduct, and embezzlement of family assets." David added, "Not to mention, the SEC is very interested in his offshore accounts. If we can prove even one fraudulent wire transfer, he's looking at federal charges on top of everything else." Stella nodded, absorbing the gravity of what was about to happen. Daniel had spent months believing he was playing chess, moving each piece strategically to steal what wasn't his. What he didn't know was that Stella had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. "Tomorrow morning," Hannah confirmed, "we move." Stella sat back, her fingers grazing the pendant her mother had given her. This wasn't just about winning, it was about justice. By this time tomorrow, Daniel Hayes's empire of lies would come crashing down. At exactly 10 a.m., the calm of the upscale Seattle neighborhood was shattered by the arrival of 3 black and white police cruisers pulling up to the curb of the Hayes family estate. Stella watched from the passenger seat of an unmarked police car, her hands clenched in her lap as uniformed officers stepped out, their radios crackling with confirmation. Across the street, curtains twitched and neighbors peered out, their morning coffee temporarily forgotten. The front door swung open. There he was, Daniel Hayes, dressed in a tailored navy suit, his expression shifting from irritation to pure disbelief as he registered the officers standing on his doorstep. He was expecting a real estate agent, not law enforcement. "Mr. Hayes," Detective Hannah Jorge stepped forward, her badge flashing in the morning light, "you're under arrest for multiple counts of estate fraud, financial misconduct, and forgery." Daniel scoffed, trying to play it off. "This is ridiculous. Do you have any idea who I am?" "Actually, we do," Hannah said smoothly, producing a stack of legal documents. "And so does the SEC. We have evidence that you illegally transferred assets from Victoria Hayes' estate into shell companies under your control. Additionally," she continued, "our forensic accountants have uncovered proof that you forged your sister-in-law's signature on multiple financial documents while she was hospitalized and under sedation. That alone is a felony." Daniel's face turned ashen, but he still refused to acknowledge the truth. He turned his gaze toward Stella, standing beside Jackson and Emily, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable. "Stella," he sneered. "This is a mistake. You don't understand what's happening." Stella took a slow step forward, meeting his calculating eyes with steady resolve. "Oh, I understand perfectly, Daniel," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel. "You thought you could rewrite my mother's wishes, steal what was never yours, and no one would stop you. You were wrong." Daniel's composure finally cracked. "You ungrateful little—" "Careful, Mr. Hayes," Hannah cut in sharply. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." The handcuffs clicked into place as the officers led him toward the waiting squad car. Panic flickered across his face for the first time. He twisted toward Stella. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." Stella's lips barely twitched. "I already regret trusting you." The car door slammed shut, cutting off any further protests. Jackson exhaled beside her. Well, that was satisfying. Emily was already typing on her phone. "We need to move fast. The estate sale contracts haven't been signed yet, but Daniel had meetings lined up with potential buyers. I'll make sure all transactions are officially frozen." Stella nodded. "We're also filing to officially transfer the stolen assets back into my name." David, the SEC investigator, looked up from his paperwork. "Speaking of which, the SEC will be following up with separate charges. Daniel had offshore accounts and shady transfers that violated financial regulations. He won't just be facing state charges, this is federal now." Stella let out a slow breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. For months, Daniel had played his game, believing he was untouchable. Now, he was the one being removed from the board. Inside the house, the evidence team was already at work, cataloging documents, forged contracts, and financial records left carelessly behind in her mother's old office. Stella stood for a moment, looking around. The room still smelled faintly of lavender and old books, a reminder of the woman who had built this life, only to have it nearly stolen away. "This place is yours again," Jackson said softly. Stella nodded. "And now it's time to make sure no one else ever goes through what I did." She turned away, leaving her past behind and stepping into her future. The dust had settled, but the impact of Daniel's betrayal lingered. Weeks after his arrest, Stella found herself walking through the now quiet estate, feeling the weight of what had nearly been lost. The house still carried her mother's presence, the faint scent of lavender in the study, the carefully arranged books on the shelves, the sunlit kitchen where they once spent Sunday mornings. But instead of dwelling on what had happened, Stella focused on what came next. She had fought to protect what was rightfully hers, and now she was determined to help others do the same. With Jackson and Emily's help, she officially launched Carter Trust Solutions, a consulting firm dedicated to helping families protect their assets from financial exploitation. What started as a personal battle against Daniel quickly evolved into a mission to educate and protect others. She soon realized that her case was not unique. Families across the country faced similar betrayals, often at the hands of those they trusted most. Months later, she received a letter from Daniel, mailed from the state correctional facility. She hesitated before opening it, bracing for another manipulative plea or an attempt to justify his actions. But instead, the words were laced with resentment and reluctant admiration. "You were smarter than I thought. You played the game better than me. Maybe your mother was right about you after all." Stella let out a slow breath and set the letter aside. Daniel's opinion no longer mattered. He had been a lesson, not a loss. 1 year to the day after his arrest, she stood in front of a packed conference hall, speaking at the official launch of the Victoria Hayes Foundation, named in honor of her mother. The foundation's goal: to support families affected by financial fraud and estate manipulation, providing resources and legal aid to those fighting similar battles. As she stepped off the stage, Emily nudged her. "Your mom would have been proud." Stella smiled, glancing at the locket around her neck, still holding a photo of her parents. "She always told me," Stella said softly, "that strength isn't about fighting back, it's about building something better." And that's exactly what she intended to do. Stella Hayes' story is more than just a tale of justice. It's a masterclass in resilience, intelligence, and the power of playing the long game. It teaches us that preparedness isn't just about knowing your rights, it's about anticipating challenges before they arise. In moments of grief, when emotions run high, we are most susceptible to deception, making vigilance in financial matters not just important but essential. Stella's journey is a testament to the fact that true power lies not in reacting impulsively, but in thinking strategically. Instead of letting anger cloud her judgment, she gathered knowledge, built an airtight case, and outmaneuvered those who sought to take advantage of her vulnerability. Her victory wasn't just about reclaiming what was rightfully hers, it was about proving that wisdom and patience can dismantle even the most cunning schemes. But Stella's story doesn't end with personal triumph. She took her experience and transformed it into something greater, creating a business that protects others from falling into the same trap. Her journey reminds us that justice isn't just about setting things right, it's about creating lasting change, empowering others, and ensuring that no one else has to suffer the same fate. In the end, true strength isn't just about winning. It's about using your victories to uplift others.